This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
The draft is going to start at 5, they said. The Steelers are taking Shedeur, they said. The Bears are trading up for Ashton Genty, they said. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They said wrong. As we welcome you back in here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, channel 158. Friday edition of the program. Lookout weekend. So much to get to over the course of the next 2 hours. I'm Stormy Buonantony, live in downtown Las Vegas at Circa Resort and Casino. Alongside, once again today, former NFL offensive lineman, betting analyst, Geoff Schwartz on the line. And I know we've got a lot to dive into. But first of all, I got to give you a major congratulations, my friend, because the text we were getting of the plus money prices you were hitting on draft picks yesterday. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. However, I ended up being like down 1.5 units, somewhere around there, because it's all about, size of the unit and what you're able to put down. And like the Colston Loveland one, I had a great number, but I didn't put a big unit on it. And so it was a good night for me. Would have been nice for the Raiders to take an offensive lineman.
Yeah, well, the Loveland one, that was one of what was a handful of surprises for me, which is actually a good way to set the tone for what we have on deck, the way we start every show here on Money Moves. Time to run it down. Would you please, producer Brian?
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
Top 5 items and guests we have coming up here on Money Moves, starting with, look at that, number 1, the biggest surprises and moments from the NFL draft. And I'm not just talking about Kelvin Banks' baby. We all saw the jolt reaction. Maybe not. We'll throw up. Yeah, it was an interesting scene there. But Colston Loveland was certainly one of them because I was such a firm believer in Tyler Warren of Penn State being the first tight end off the board. I really thought he was going to be a good pair with the Chicago Bears there at 10, but good on the Colts for getting him at 14. Look at Loveland closing there at 10.
Well, I think it's one of those drafts where it was sort of flavor of ice cream you like, right? The Bears like Loveland a little more than Warren. I'm with you. I think Warren's more of a complete player. But we have to consider that Loveland played an offense last year that was allergic to the forward pass. Maybe with a better quarterback, his numbers are better. We feel better about that pick. And so I think it's fine. And the Colts, I think at 14 got a steal with Warren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll talk through the biggest money makers and losers. How far does Shedeur Sanders ultimately fall? But holla at us. The under 2.5 quarterbacks comes through after all. And as someone who bet that multiple times, Geoff, because I didn't get the best number, I didn't get the plus 250, I didn't get the plus 340 for as long as they were out there. I got plus 105 and plus 150. I just bet it a couple times and thank the good Lord, sweet baby Jesus, that it came through. We will also, in addition to all of our draft talk, obviously get into last night's action from the NBA and NHL, push that forward to the games we have on deck tonight. Looking forward to Todd Fuhrman joining the program, host of the Betting the Board podcast, break down his best bets tonight in the National Hockey League. Should the Vegas Golden Knights be nervous down to 1 now in that series? What the hell is going on with the Tampa Bay Lightning? Lots to get into there. And we'll continue that conversation with Mike Palm, VP of Operations here at Circa, where I'm broadcasting from. Also his reaction to the draft. But Geoff, let's get started here with the trade that shook up the first round. And obviously, Cam Ward goes number 1 overall, as expected, to the Tennessee Titans. And we talk a lot in the sports world about how Twitter, X, is the place for news for us and where a lot of that information breaks. And about 2 hours before the draft, Diana Rossini was the first person that I saw put this out there. She said teams picking in the top 10 have shared over the last hour they expect the Jags to make a splash tonight. And obviously, from our perspective, and what we talked a lot about on the show, was the Jaguars possibly trading out of that spot. Do the Bears want to come up? What does that look like? And then Geoff Howe posts, the Jags have actively been trying to move up from 5. They could move as high as number 2. That ends up being the case. And people are very split on this decision for Jacksonville, who moves all the way up to 2 because of what they traded. Cleveland slides back. They swap 1s, 4s, give up this year's 2nd and next year's 1st rounder. Mason Graham, by the way, who was favored forever to go 5, ends up cashing despite the closing number being like plus 475 because of all the Genty steam. But how do you view this? Like, the Jaguars obviously think that in Travis Hunter, they're getting this quote unquote generational talent. They're getting 2 players for the price of 1. But a lot of people also look at, dang, that's a haul for the Browns to receive. Should the Jags have done that? So what was your reaction?
So when we decided to grade picks, essentially, right? It's what we do. And I read all those articles. I love them. Just keep sending them to me, please. At Geoff Schwartz on Twitter. I'll read all of them. Yeah, I don't care who you are. Just send it to me. But nonetheless, we should be looking at process over maybe grade, right? Because Travis Hunter might be the best player ever. And we look back and we think, wow, this was a great trade for the Jacksonville. But the process, I don't know if I like it. So we give a 2026 first round pick for a non-quarterback. I don't know if that's great value and great resource. Now, I think Hunter's going to be great in the NFL. I disagree with the idea they're drafting 2 players. I made this point many times. I'll make it again. You can be a corner and play a little bit of wide receiver. You can't be a full-time wide receiver and play corner. It's not going to work that way. The practice reps, you can't learn 2 playbooks in that way. Just remember, the college playbook, let's say, is an inch thick, okay? NFL playbook is 3 inches thick. You have to learn both of the sides. And in Colorado, Travis Hunter was a full-time corner and basically a part-time wide receiver. And I don't know, Jacksonville thought we're going to draft 2 players with 1. So, again, I'm not sure I love the process, but their GM is 34. He came from the Rams. The F them picks. That's the way he feels.
Well, and that mentality is something that their general manager, James Gladstone, responded to on the podium after the start of the draft yesterday. Take a listen.
I probably got some familiarity with the them picks sort of process. So for our fans, I'll tell you, don't be scared. This is something I'm uniquely positioned to navigate, and we ended up with we ended up bringing Travis Hunter to Jacksonville, and with that, he is somebody who is deserving of a first-round draft pick as a wide receiver, and he is worthy of a first-round draft pick as a corner. Certainly look forward to each of those elements showing themselves over the next few years while he's under his rookie contract. But, yeah, we're excited about just getting him in the boat, so to speak.
I think I'm just most impressed that we didn't walk away from that with a Duval. But because he did mention the multi-position element to him from a betting standpoint, there was a lot of discourse about this in certain betting markets. Is he a wide receiver or is he a cornerback? We tried to make it very obvious on this show throughout the course of the week and weeks past that what he was declared as is a defensive player, but a lot of books took what he's announced as, so it could have gone either way. The one prop in particular that really stood out is the over or under 15.5 offensive players. You think you have that in the bank if you're counting Travis Hunter as a wide receiver going into those final couple picks of the draft, but it took 32 of 32 to get you over that number if you didn't. So it just kind of an interesting layer there.
It depends on the house rules. I'll give you the one that I think it was the most controversial with this was Jalen Walker, right? Where he listed as a linebacker, but he's a pass rusher. That's what he'll play in the NFL. And they go off the NFL.com listing. I actually went and found, I texted you guys about this. I didn't realize I was going through all my notes. I had a Jacksonville to draft a corner wide receiver. I was pumped about that. That's kind of saved my night. I didn't realize that was like the 10th unit, which I should have been a little bit more. You look draft. I gave out Jackson Dart yesterday at plus 150, but that was on a sports book that I couldn't access in New York. I was about it. Ended up hitting last night as well. So, you look back on the pages and whatnot, but look, Travis Hunter, I think will be a great player, Stormy. I think they gave up a little much for him. We'll see in a couple of years.
Well, let's talk about what the Giants did here, because obviously they take Abdul Carter at 3, who is, by the way, looking at the odds board here in the NFL, your early defensive rookie of the year favorite, plus 225. Then they trade back into the second round to take Dart, as you mentioned. There was a lot of the conversation, obviously, about Shedeur Sanders as well. And I mean, Mel Kiper did not come off of his stance. Let me tell you, he had Shedeur as his top quarterback, top 5 prospect. He was pounding the table for him all day. When it came to the Giants, though, I know a lot of those NFL draft pundits said when it came to Brian Daboll, Shedeur's not his guy. Jackson Dart is going to be his guy. That's how it falls. Although I'm not sure I agreed with the Josh Allen comps. I know that Daboll.
That's so bad.
Yeah, I know Daboll. I mean, Allen's 6'5", 375. What's Jackson Dart? 6'2"? Like, I get that they both are mobile, but that's a bit much, no? I
despise the draft industry of comps. It's so unfair to the players. And yeah, he's not Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a unicorn. He's one of one. Stormy, I don't have like a strong anti-Jackson Dart take. I just think he's going to be mid. And that's not what I think you should trade up for. And obviously the Giants felt strongly he's their guy. Take him where they did. The first round pick won't matter next season. But you also have a weird quarterback dynamic there where Russell Wilson's there, Jameis Winston's there, and Jackson Dart. So is he taking reps over Jameis Winston? Like, who is he just not going to play all this season? That doesn't feel like a good draft pick. So I don't know what the overall plan is here for his development, and that worries me a little bit.
And I am in complete agreement with you. It's an interesting quarterback room. But now that leads us into today and a team like the Browns, who does have 2 picks early in the second round, including right away with that top selection at 33 overall. The team that Shedeur will be drafted by odds, Browns a minus 350 favorite. But I saw last night a guy who I really respect in this whole mock draft space, Dane Brugler of The Athletic, was hearing they didn't like Shedeur. The Raiders are plus 350, Saints 6-1, Steelers, Jets, and Rams all 12-1. And we will get into all of that a little bit more later on in the show. We'll hit on the draft a handful of times, and rightfully so, and teams that we think are the on paper winners and losers, right? This time of year is always fun. We finally move away from the mock draft season, and now it's the grades, as you were mentioning earlier. But when we come back, we'll get into our reaction from the NBA last night. Thank goodness that live betting exists. I'll put it that way. And some early thoughts on tonight with 3 more games coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started here on this Friday edition of Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So because the NHL made me physically ill last night, I'm going to start with the NBA postseason today. We'll get into the NHL in about 15, 20 minutes with Todd Fuhrman when he joins us. But we had 3 games last night, 3 more tonight. Yeah. And I want to start, Geoff, with this OKC game. Memphis was up in this thing 77-51 at halftime. They still lose this game. Final score 114-108. Not many teams can do what the Thunder did. But we were texting last night about the potential opportunity to buy in on a better number on OKC, and you were getting that all night long. If you had those live betting options up, if you're checking in commercial breaks, there were tons of opportunities to get back in on OKC.
Yes. So I tried to take them live first half just to see at like plus 6.5. Like, there's no way they play this poorly. And they kept playing poorly. And I decided to do third quarter. I did it for a little unit. And when they started making that run, I just hit the money line. I mean, I think most of us did, right? It just felt like there was a tide of momentum in that direction. It ended up being a little bit up, took a little more on the money line than I did on my other wagers. I even text you, it got tied with about 6 minutes left. Memphis went on a tiny bit of a run. But I think text you 6 minutes left. I think the 9.5 was capable at that time. And that's the way that game was going. Obviously, John Morant getting hurt changed that game. But Memphis can't let that happen at home. You can't be up 30 points and lose, even with your best player being out. You have other players on that roster. I gave out Desmond Bain last night over 2.5 threes. He was 2 of 11 from 3. Like, you can't. Jaren Jackson had 2 points, which is fine. But you need a little bit more from the rest of your guys. Ant is out. Scottie Pippen at 28, he did well. You just can't let OKC make that comeback. Just can't. And also, too, SGA was good, but not most efficient either. Like, they didn't play their best game, still came back and won.
Well, and that's the thing too, is they didn't play their best game. Memphis, as you referenced, like, they're at home. They're laying it all out there. They get out to a big lead. Feels like the season is on the line in this moment. And yes, they're without your best player, to your point, but still, there's no excuse to let go of that big of a lead. 13 points from Memphis in the fourth quarter. As we talked about yesterday on the show, I laid it with OKC at the jump, but I bought off of that position and got significantly better numbers. So in this spot, Memphis does cover that pre-flop number, but just a good reminder and a good note of all these different opportunities you can get in game. Whether you bet a team pre-flop, you need to buy off of it, you need to save yourself, or if you're just looking for a better number in general, if you don't like the number that's available to you prior to a game and you think that the underdog or another position can get out to a lead. There was another team yesterday, Geoff, that scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, but not a series that's been a blowout. It was the one prior to last night that was the most interesting, that was the most back and forth. Not anymore, it appears, in Nuggets Clippers. What a performance from LA. A no sweat win and cover of that 5.5. 117-83 the final. It is the third largest playoff win for the Clippers in franchise history.
Look, I doubted the Clippers hype heading the postseason because it's the Clippers. Like, I'm from Los Angeles. I remember them playing at the Sports Arena. They never are good. They never do what they're supposed to do, but everyone's healthy. And Kawhi Leonard is a postseason killer. He's a two-time final MVP, like legitimately really, really good. I think one thing that really is killing Denver right now, and you look at sort of the box score and splits and whatnot, the Jokic minute killing them. Not when he's out of the game is killing them, right? You look at the second quarter, the Clippers won by 11. The fourth quarter, they won by 14. Look at the other games. The Clippers won the second quarter and the fourth quarter when Jokic is out. That's when the Clippers sort of take advantage of him being out of the game and Denver not being able to have an answer. So great job for the Clippers. I would imagine Denver bounces back in game 4. If they don't, it's over. They're going to get it done if not. So curious to see what adjustments they make because they got to play better to make.
And that's another 5.5 point spread in favor of the Clippers where things sit right now. But I mean, Kawhi 21, 10 and 5, James Harden 20 and 9, 18 made threes as a team, including 9 in the first quarter to get out to that start. But another big difference was the Clippers had 31 points from their bench. The Nuggets just had 6. If LA does win this series, safe to say that the Thunder will have a little bit stiffer competition than they did in round 1. Also, give it to the Knicks over the Pistons. This number closed 1.5. Knicks win by 2, 118-116. Final total goes over, so good for the public in that spot. Karl Anthony Towns, 31 points, 4 of 8 from 3. Jalen Brunson, 30. The Pistons have now lost, I saw this on ESPN, Sports and Information Group, 8 straight home playoff losses since 2008, within one of an NBA record drought that was set in the 70s.
This game was not as close to the 2-point win. The Knicks were control most of this. The last 2 minutes, fear has come back by the Pistons. I was wrong about the first quarter of this game. The other two first quarters went my direction. It was 2-1 in a first quarter night for me. I will tell you right now, I will bet all 3 first quarter for the home team tonight in the NBA, so which will be fun. We'll get the best bets later. They just started the game terribly. I thought game 3 at home, just went game 2, you're feeling good. It started cold, and it started a little bit tight, I felt like. Knicks had 3 points in the first quarter, continued to score, and Cat had a bounce-back game. Zigzag theory we talk about all the time, right? Good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Bad game, game 2, comes back in game 3. He's a good basketball player, quite excellent.
All right, let's get into tonight. The Bucks are a 5-point favorite against the Pacers. Timberwolves laying 3 at home in game 3 against the Lakers. And then this Boston Magic number has been on the move. So as the series shifts to Orlando, Boston laying 3.5 right now, total 196.5. And I think that this is a spot we see as of last night. Jason Tatum was downgraded to unlikely to play. Somebody new popped up on the injury report. Drew Holiday, questionable. So I think that's why we're seeing the number creep in this direction. Is the talent in your mind potentially of, Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis and Derek White, is that enough to win and cover this first game on the road? What do you think?
Probably. Orlando does not score at a fat pace. And if they're able to, Boston is able to limit their ability to score and limit second chance opportunities, I think Boston can do enough offensively, even without Holiday, who has not scored in the series. He's done other things like rebound assists, like he always does in defense. They can get by with the players they have. Hauser will have to shoot well. Pitcher will have to put in a bunch of points. But the unders now have been 97.5. Stormy. It keeps going down and down and down. I would look to play Magic first quarter, first half. I know they've been close in the first half, but the first quarter, I feel like tonight, they're down to 2, Stormy. They have to come out tonight with the energy to try to take this game early, in my opinion. They don't want to keep Boston around. And so I do like the Magic early in this game. I think Celtics do end up winning and cover late.
Yeah, this is crazy because you mentioned the total. This is a total that opens sub 200, right? It's 198.5 and was still taking under money. I see as low as 196.5 in the market. But so I love that mentality. Do you think that the Milwaukee Bucks come out with that same mentality today here against the Pacers at home? It's been all Giannis and Giannis alone here so far.
Yeah. So I put a unit and a half on the Bucks first quarter today. I think it's 1.5 or 2. Look, Dame Lillard came back last game. You could tell he's working back in the flow of things. Only had 14 points, 4-13 shooting. You're back home. The series has been up and down for the Bucks. Now you're back home. You have to win Game 3, but this is over. You get Lillard back now, second game. And it's not as good on the road in this situation. So I like the Bucks to start fast. Actually, the Bucks probably do win and cover, but I'll defer a little bit to Indiana being able to score offensively whenever they want at times. But I do think that Bucks really start fast.
I think that first quarter angle is worthwhile because it is the 2.5. I initially was looking at the first half because it's like, okay, they're 5-point favorites in the full game. What's that first half number look like if they get out to a faster start? Oh, it's still 4.5. Like, that's not worthwhile to get in on. So the quarter angle might be the better bet there, as you referenced. And then the last game of the night, you are a Lakers fan. How do you like their chances in Game 3 with this series tied right now against the Timberwolves?
Well, I like their defense adjustments. They won Game 2, right? They got in the faces of the T-Wolves shooters, didn't let them shoot as well. But Timberwolves did not shoot well in Game 2. I think they were 25% from 3. They're going to shoot better at home in Game 3. The one thing that worries me about my quarter theory in this game specifically is that the Lakers are a good first quarter team. Luka scores a ton of points in the first quarter. So it does worry me a little bit, but I will be on it. I think Minnesota, again, back home, the energy in that building, the defense they play in that building, Lakers won't be intimidated. It's their first time as a group. I will also say Jackson Hayes is barely playing. His points, rebound, assist is 5.5. 5.5. I took a half unit on the under already. I don't think he's going to play much at all in this game.
Okay.
He's not going to have no stat. Like, they don't throw him the ball. He's not already played 9 minutes last game. There's ways to sort of hit the player prop angle in this game.
All right, good note there. And for the record, too, for anybody out there who is trying to bet on these NBA playoffs right now on VSiN, the Killer Sports NBA Playoff Challenge is underway, where 15 sharp minds from the world of VSiN and Killer Sports are going head-to-head, making picks from the start of the playoffs all the way through the NBA Finals. So 570 total NBA playoff picks, all available to our VSiN Pro subscribers. If you have full VSiN Pro access right now, VSiN.com/subscribe, just $59 for everything we have. That way you get all of this information at your fingertips each and every day. We got Todd Fuhrman joining us next from the NBA postseason to the NHL.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Want to bet smarter and gain more and more information in the betting world? Well, you've got to come join us at VSiN.com. Be a VSiN Pro subscriber today, right now, up on the website. You know, we've got draft betting recaps of round 1, round 2, and 3 best bets for the NFL draft coming up later on this evening. Greg Peterson's already got his Major League Baseball best wagers out for the day. Plus, later on this afternoon, get ready. Zach Cohen's got his player props for the NBA postseason games that we've got coming up today. Jonathan Davis been crushing it in the NHL, and a whole lot more. So if you want to come join us, VSiN.com/subscribe is how you can sign up for our summer special here at VSiN. Just $59 for full pro access until August 1st. And we were actually in the commercial break. Geoff Schwartz, Stormy Buonantony with you back here on Money Moves. Giving that kudos to our guy, Jonathan Davis, our VSiN betting expert here on the program, because he did really well last night. Although for you and I, we were also commiserating about how the Florida Panthers crushed the Tampa Bay Lightning and that the Lightning are dead to us. They're just, I have no words for what has happened here so far.
Vegas might be dead to us too, Stormy. I know you don't want to admit that, but that was like, look, again, I'm new to watching a ton of hockey, but you know, your eyes, I don't think, deceive. You could tell when the team is much better than another team, and Tampa Bay just looks worse than Florida. Like, Florida's playing with more energy. The first goal they scored last night was just bad goaltending. I mean, Florida just looks better. I mean, it's kind of simple. I know it's boring to say that sometimes, but that's a big takeaway I've had through 2 games is they just look much better.
Yeah, I was depressed to say the least. And so I'm hoping that we can cash some tickets moving forward into today. And hopefully our next guest, Todd Fuhrman, can help us to do just that as we welcome him in here on the Progressive Guest Line, former odds maker, co-founder of the Bet the Board pod, betting analyst with CBS Sports HQ. The list goes on. And Todd, how about you? Do we put a fork in the Tampa Bay Lightning after 2 games? What have you made of this series?
I'm not ready to put a fork in them just yet as we all await the availability of Sasha Barkov for the Florida Panthers after that vicious hit. But it doesn't look great for Tampa. We're reminded, Stormy, how good this Florida team is from top to bottom. They can beat you in a track meet with 3 lines of depth. They can beat you in a low-scoring rock fight like we saw last night with Sergei Bobrovsky doing his best Dominic Hasek impression. And even more importantly for Florida, they're going to get their top offensive defenseman back from his 20-game suspension for Game 3, and Aaron Ekblad. So the rich get richer, and I think Florida finds a way to get through, but it wouldn't shock me if Tampa found a way to make this thing a little bit tighter and steal Game 3.
Let's look forward to tonight's game. All 3 home teams tonight down 0-2. Is there a particular one you like to get on the board tonight with a win?
Well, first things first, Geoff, I'm glad that Stormy's rubbing off on you, and you are now an NHL enthusiast with legalized sports betting in North Carolina. So that warms my heart, having done work with you over all these years. The game that stands out to me, I actually think there is one opportunity to back a home team with an 0-2 deficit, and that's Montreal. The Bell Center is going to be absolutely electric for this particular environment. Montreal hasn't played a home playoff game in nearly a decade with a full stadium. And when you look at Montreal and how they performed through the first 2 games, yes, they've been outclassed by some of the pedigree, the heavy game that the Capitals want to play. A bounce here or bounce there in either Game 1 or Game 2, and Montreal has this series knotted up at a game apiece. I think Montreal is going to put forth a similar home effort to what we saw last night from the St. Louis Blues. And while ultimately I don't think Montreal will have enough depth to get through and win this series, I do think they make an excellent bet tonight. Anything at plus 101 or better to steal a game from the Caps. I'm not nearly as optimistic about the other 2 teams that are headed home facing 0-2 deficits. Carolina and New Jersey, look, just a bad matchup for the Devils from top to bottom, dealing with injuries along the blue line. And even if they get Jonas Siegenthaler back, who's missed an extended period of time, I don't see a path for them. And I'm waiting with bated breath to see how far this price can run, because the Kings, extremely intriguing for me tonight. Shop around. There's some plus 130s out there. If we get that late surge of Oiler money, we may even be able to get a better price tag on a team that I think is a real threat to win the Western Conference in the Kings.
Ooh, I love that. And it's funny. I'm somebody who bet the Kings in this series right off the hop. And then Game 1 comes through. They're up to that 4-goal lead early. And then it slowly yet quickly collapses for them. And I was like, don't let this be something that's going to set the tone where the Oilers are going to steal this game. Then they're going to run away with the series. That has not been the case. The Kings put their foot down in Game 2. I love what you're talking about with them here coming up against the Oilers as that series transitions over. But I do wonder, what are we going to get in net for the Oilers? Do you think they go back to Stuart Skinner? Is it Calvin Pickard today? Does it matter because it's been so rough on that end for Edmonton?
I mean, Stormy, you've been around the NHL long enough to know the goalie bears an unfair responsibility. And while Stuart Skinner hasn't been great this series by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not sure there's any goaltender that would have fared that much better given the amount of time that the LA Kings have had to operate from the slot uncontested. I mean, these are goals that shouldn't be given up at this level. You know, it's more akin to a Tuesday night in the middle of November than anything else. In my opinion, if Coach Knobloch makes the move from Skinner to Pickard, it's actually something that's going to benefit, trying to make a case for the Kings. You look at what the Oilers have been able to do, or I guess I should say haven't been able to do. I'm going to point my finger more at that blue line than anything else. I mean, Darnell Nurse sliding down to try and block every pass. I'm not quite sure where he's learned that technique that's not paying off. Jake Wallman spending more time picking up dumb penalties than he is being able to contribute at both ends of the ice. And I think the bigger absence for the Oilers right now has been Matthias Ekholm, who has been that linchpin on the blue line. They just don't have that stalwart defender. And it's really created problems against the Kings team, who, of course, has lost the Oilers each of the last 3 postseasons, but now has a lot more depth. And we're seeing a young player in Quentin Byfield really come of age before our very eyes.
Is the under in play tonight in New Jersey? Hughes, I believe, is out again. The under is hit in both those games, and there were empty net goals, too, scored by the Canes in both those games. Is that a play under 5.5 for you tonight?
I can't get there on the total tonight, Geoff. When you look at some of the underlying metrics, and I know numbers can lie with score effects having a very real impact during the NHL playoffs, this has actually been the highest event series of any that we have seen in the opening round. And there was a flurry for about an 8 to 10 minute stretch where if Jacob Markstrom and Freddie Anderson both don't stand on their heads in game 2, in my opinion, that game can go flying over. Now, I do think Carolina can simplify their game a little bit more and will on the road to try and clamp down on the Devils. But there for me is a path for this game to go over. Have I gotten there myself? I haven't, because I worry about where the Devils can get some depth scoring. But I can't get there and make a case to go under the total. I think the score lines that we've seen in both game 1 and game 2 are a little bit misleading so far.
The Carolina Hurricanes, your favorite right now to win the Stanley Cup, worth noting because you referenced earlier on the Los Angeles Kings being a true contender, plus 850 right now available on them. The Colorado Avalanche were the Cup favorite coming into the postseason. They got as short as 5-1. Now they're down 2-1 here in round 1 to the Stars after back-to-back overtime losses, including this past game where they go 0-for-6 uncharacteristically on the power play. I was stunned by that as somebody who had them in regulation. They're now being bet up to minus 192 for game 4. Is there a way, though, to capitalize on them in a bounce back way? Maybe not on the money line because it's so pricey, but any other way to back Colorado here?
Pretty wild when we look at the series dynamics with Dallas having a 2-1 lead. They've led for a grand total of 1 minute and 2 seconds. Yet here we are with Colorado kind of in a must-win type situation. But I don't get anywhere close to this number. You referenced it being close to $2 at this point, although we did see some money come in on the Dallas Stars earlier this morning. Some speculation that Miro Heiskanen could return to the lineup and really bolster that Stars blue line. Anyone who's watched these first 3 games, Stormy, I think has to feel the same way, that the scoreline in game 1 where Colorado came out with a 5-1 win wasn't indicative of how competitive that game was. And either of these last 2 games, Colorado could have won in overtime. So for a series that I think is much more like a coin flip, I think the dog has a tremendous amount of value. I'm not writing off Colorado for dead by any stretch, but I don't get close to where this game is being priced. And I think even if Colorado can win the series, it's Dallas or pass at that price tag right now, plus 155 or better for game 4, that, Colorado is going to put everything they have into it. It'll be a question if they can get a bounce or 2 and break through against that aforementioned Stars penalty kill that you highlighted. That has been really the difference maker so far for Dallas in the series.
Can the Golden Knights even the series in game 4 in Minnesota?
I would love to sit here and say yes, that I think game 2 and game 3 were an anomaly, but I think the Knights right now are in a world of hurt. And we can start from the back on out. Adin Hill has not looked anything close to that cup-winning goaltender that we saw a few years ago. The save percentage isn't there, hasn't come up with a timely save. The blue line for the Knights that was supposed to be a strength coming in. I mean, Shea Theodore treated the puck in game 2 like it was a hand grenade, and you even saw Coach Bruce Cassidy bench him for an extended period in that second. And the one thing the Knights have done better than any team in the league, they took penalties at a historically low level throughout the regular season. How do they start game 3 when you figure we're going to get a bounce back performance? A too many men on the ice penalty that ends up in the back of their net. And the problem right now is the 3 of us have combined for as many points in this series as the top line for the Knights. Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, and Ivan Barbashev, a goose egg. Although you did see Eichel and Stone have much better chances late in the game, just couldn't break through against Philip Gustafsson. Look, this is a Wild team now that's reminding us why they were so good early in the year when they were healthy. The top line has been absolutely dominant with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy, truly dominating at 5-on-5. As much as I hate to say it, it's Wild or pass here. And I think if you're able to grab the Wild at plus 130, they can put the Knights on the ropes when the series heads back to Vegas on Tuesday night for Game 5.
Todd, you're awesome. Thanks so much for this. Todd Fuhrman, everybody. Make sure you check out the Bet the Board podcast. We got to take a quick time out. Back for the end of the hour after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here wrapping up hour 1 here on Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, channel 158. Thanks for hanging out with us today, alongside former NFL offensive lineman and betting analyst Geoff Schwartz, Stormy Buonantony with you. Lots of baseball on the card today. Obviously, the NBA postseason is rolling on. The NHL playoffs that we were breaking down with Todd Fuhrman in the last segment, which, by the way, Geoff, some bets you lose, and they're not bad beats, but they're just frustrating. And that was how I felt yesterday for all of my prop bets in hockey. Todd mentioned it. The no-shows in this series from Mark Stone and Jack Eichel have been brutal. And then the shots on goal prop I did yesterday for Nikita Kucherov in the Tampa Bay Lightning Florida Panthers game, I had him over a few like laddered props for shots on goal. He ends up logging just one official shot on goal in the game and had 4 shots missed. So that means they don't directly go on the goalie, they hit the post or they go wide of the net. And for him to have 5, where if those even like the half of those go on net, I'm making money. And so it's just really, really frustrating when you have things that play out that way. And I don't know what I think about the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. Todd said that he thinks that maybe they could steal game 3. I just don't know if I can bet this team and lose any more money on them at this point.
They just haven't looked good, Stormy. Like you can see with your eyes. I feel like we both watch the same thing. They have not looked as good as before. Like you thought last night they would come out and immediately take charge, right? They lost game 1. They got embarrassed in game 1. Yeah. Did they do that? I didn't see that. And you look at the Senators who played just after them. The tip, I guess puck drop was right after them. The energy they played with looked far different than the energy the Tampa Bay played with. And the Senators lost in overtime again anyways, but they look like a team that was down big in a series and wanted to prove it, on a home ice, like we got to get back into the series. So I didn't see that from Tampa last night. Now you're going to tell me they're going on the road and we're going to see that intensity. Goaltending was better for them. We talked about that yesterday, but the first goal was just not the best goaltending. Even the announcing crew brought that up. He's like, he slid way too far. Should have just kind of, stay a little higher, not gone on his knees like this. They have issues, and I would not back them. I'm curious, would you take Senators in game 4? They lost 2 straight in overtime. They need a win here. I'm curious about, I know it's not tonight, but Senators game 4 kind of caught my attention.
So this is tough. I didn't do it on this show. I went on with Ariel Epstein yesterday on the Prop Queen Sports program, and she was asking me about that series with Toronto. And I liked them as a plus money dog yesterday and the under, which both come through. Another like hard fought overtime win. And I think it makes sense I said I thought it would either be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. Yeah. I liked Toronto to win yesterday. So if Ottawa was going to win a game in my brain, it would have been in game 4. But I don't know, like even looking at this price is minus 115. So clearly a lot of belief and sentiment out there that Toronto can do it again. And I kind of believe that. This is a team that for so many years, Geoff, has had that first round bite them in the butt, like year after year after year. Yeah. This is a team that is considered to be a cup contender coming into the playoffs, and they screw it up in round 1. 2 years ago, they screw it up in round 2. Which was a miracle that they even made it to round 2, considering they had this just hex on their back that they couldn't get out of the first round. I feel like they've moved past that. And in this Battle of Ontario, in a matchup that's so important for them as a community and as a team, that they want to put the hammer down. And I know we've had close games. Ottawa, to me in this series, we've seen them play their best. We still haven't seen Toronto play their best. So this was a game I was staying off of for game 4 because I like Toronto in the series and I feel like I've made my money off of them so far.
You could double dip if you wanted, I guess. Maybe try to win money both ways. But I understand just money in the bank is better than, I guess, losing any more money. Back to tonight. So I asked Todd the question about any of these home teams you like to just win outright because they're all down 0-2. He went with Canadians. I feel like that is the best option for tonight, right? You look at the Devils and their injuries, can't score right now. And the Kings have just scored a ton of goals against Edmonton, and whenever they've wanted to, the entire series. So it does feel like Montreal is the best opportunity tonight. They're about even money right now to win that game.
Yeah, I think so too. The way, as hard as they've played and as well as their goaltending has gone to this point, I feel like this is a good opportunity for them to win back at home. I know that Todd mentioned, shop around, try to get that plus money, even money or better. Right now we're seeing at DraftKings minus 102, and I think it's going to continue to go that way, as you referenced, with people buying in on Montreal. So we'll see, but I haven't bet that yet, but I do think that could be a play. I am looking at a way to bet on the Carolina Hurricanes today. They're out to a minus 170 favorite on the money line, so obviously I'm not going to play it that way, but maybe maybe a regulation price, a 3-way money line, something different there. I like doing parlays with alt numbers as well. So maybe something I can tie in an alt over in the Kings Oilers game if you bring that down to a 5.5. And I think there's a lot of potential in some alt numbers tonight as well. Anything else in the NHL? Otherwise, I know you've got some Major League Baseball plays that we want to get into.
I'm looking at Suzuki over shots on goal tonight. He had 0 last game at 7 game 1. Feels like back home. We'll see him pour some shots. I think it's probably 2.5 or 3.5 right now. That feels like a good angle to take. And then I did what you did yesterday. I liked it. Team to score first. I took the Canadians and the Oilers to score first. I think one was 135 and one was, I think, 120 this morning where I could find it. And I didn't do Devils. I just took those two to score first. Again, I think we talked about how we feel about teams down 0-2 and needing to start fast. And last night we saw, I think the Senators scored first, right? We hit that one. We did not hit the one in Tampa Bay.
All right, let's shift gears to a little Major League Baseball action. Another jam-packed slate, full day, 15 games, all 30 teams in action. What drew your attention first as you were going through the board?
Well, I got to go back to it, right? I took the team total over for the Reds tonight. They're in Colorado. That hit twice yesterday. The Royals had 6 and 7 runs in both their games yesterday. So that was nice. The Reds have had moments this year where they've scored a ton of runs. They did 24 the other night. Other games where they scored 0. So the variance there is kind of interesting for me. But again, it's the Rockies. They're at home. They're allowing near 8 runs a game at home this season, Stormy. I just auto do it each and every game for the Rockies. And then I have the A's tonight on the run line against the White Sox. Luckily, house rules saved me last night, Stormy, because I got those wagers voided when the White Sox and Twins did not go a full 9 innings. They did finish, I believe, the 6th inning before it went into a rain delay, and then eventually the game got final. But the house rules saved me there. Otherwise, it would have been an L for me. So I'll take the rain every now and then.
Yeah, it's funny. That was another one of those things that we were texting back and forth on. I was like, "Oh, we didn't get through the 8th. So what's that going to look like for you? What are your house rules?" So that ended up being good. But you can't disagree with the mentality of fading the 2 worst teams in baseball. It's really hard to do right now. Also, I got a little bit fortunate yesterday as well in that Red Sox under. It was square, but sometimes the square pays off. And we were talking about how the run scoring early had us nervous, but then it ended up coming through. I was kicking myself that we didn't bet that over 2.5 first 5 at the plus money, because that was a cash in pretty quickly. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, hey, what's the first 5 total for Yamamoto and Skeens today? It's got to be 2.5 again, right? Maybe because Dodgers offense is 3.5. I mean, that's going to be, people are going to pound the under in that game. Yamamoto is
3.5. Run total for the game is 7.
ERA, under 1 ERA. We know how good Skeens is. That's going to be a very popular. It's at night in Los Angeles. The ball doesn't travel well at night there because of the cold air. That feels like a very low scoring game.
Pitcher prop for both of these guys sitting 6.5 for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, minus 170 to the over as well in that one. So that'll be fun, no doubt about it. Real quickly, everybody, in addition to obviously all of the playoff talk and Major League Baseball that's going on, there's always so much to bet, including the Kentucky Derby. Oh my gosh, use your words, Stormy. The Kentucky Derby, the Run for the Roses, which is coming up in just a couple weeks. Betting on sports, why not try the races? And First Bet lets you wager on hundreds of horse races each and every day from top tracks across not only the U.S., but around the world. And when you sign up right now at firstbet.com, that's the number 1 stbet.com, and use the promo code VEASAN200, that'll help you claim a 20% rebate your first 60 days up to $200. Again, that's over at firstbet.com. And you hang out with Chris Felica all the time.
Yes.
Are you getting excited and geared up for the Kentucky Derby?
So here's what I do. We talked about this on the Bear Bet. If you listen to the entire Bear Bets podcast this week, you deserve a medal, Stormy. Anyone deserves a medal, because we talked about like 7 different things to wager on, 7 sports, including the Pope and Kentucky Derby. Here's what I do. I text Bear the morning of the Derby. He's like on TV. Like he's like super busy. And I text him like, bro, what do we got? And he just sends it over to me. I go and just do the exact wager he tells me. Now, Derby last year, we hit an exacta. Like, that was fantastic. So that was a lot of fun. So then I asked something to root on. And what I will also do is I ask my kids what horse they want, and I'll put $10 on the horse that they choose. There's something to root for during the race.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'm a big name person. If the name calls to me, they're getting bet. It's just that simple. Yeah, journalism, as Brian said, that's the one. And I mean, they're a favorite, though, so that's no fun. But that's the one that just, speaking my language. We'll be right back, resetting hour 2, back to the NFL draft. Where might Shedeur Sanders go?